Hello, welcome everybody. Wait, this is Quiet Gabiniscus. Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. As we let the waterfall of 60 people roll in, we'll just take a minute. There's some music in the background, some nature sounds. Just take a few moments just to breathe, come into this space. We're so grateful that you're joining us. And we can maybe let go of where we were before or what we have to do right after this and just give ourselves 60 minutes to be a part of this safe and excellent learning place. Just got another little waterfall happening, and then okay, well, let's just dive right in. Thank you so much for joining us this evening for the first of the live workshops for the Spring Tips Teaching Imagine in Place series. And to kick it off, we've got a fantastic sort of lineup of different things, and hopefully the daily emails are really going to connect with you. But today I'm here with Julian Judson, and we've got a few of the people who have produced the videos that you're going to watch as your time progresses. And we've got the fantastic Tim Patterson, who I will introduce in a moment. So for me, as a non-Indigenous person, as a person who came to this place as a visitor and fell in love, land-based outdoor learning, connection to place, like it just can't be done without connection to Indigenous perspectives. And for me, as someone who didn't grow up with the knowledge and came to this place only under a decade ago, then, you know, I've done a lot of learning there. And I hope that firstly, Tim's going to share with us a little bit about diving into that and the free resource that's available, and I'll put the link in the chat as well as part of the set that really talks to that with Heidi Wood. But for me, I wanted to share a land acknowledgement. I think it's become common practice. I think for me, it's important. There's different views about this. But my land acknowledgement, I live in the traditional and unceded territories of the Snipes people. Snipes means bull trout. Slowly known as Revelstoke. My understanding of this place, there's 4 First Nations that have called it home and utilised it and fished it and temporally and spatially utilised it over different time periods. But the Snipes were here, and they were declared extinct in 1956, and they were pushed south onto a reservation in what's now the US. And so we have the Colville Confederated Tribes, of which the Snipes are one. And then we also have a group who sort of declined to be a part of the federal government thing, and who are the autonomous Snipes. But they both speak the Inselsheen language. And so I would say white, ya sweet, hello and welcome everyone. To the west, we have, and who've utilised this for fishing and hunting and have incredible knowledge of this place and connection to it, is the Secwepemc or Shuswap Lakes people. Southwest, we have the Okanagan Silks people, more grasslands people that travelled here in times of drought or to connect into the resources here. And we have the Tanaha to the east. They're at the headwaters of the Columbia River, and they travelled up over the Selkirk Mountains to come and fish and hunt here. They gave us the technology of the sturgeon nose canoe. And there's an enormous amount of conflict where I live about this. And when I talk to different people, different Indigenous mentors about this, because I have Tim here, this is one of the things he said, it's not about you, it's about the land. And the thing he asked me was, how are you going to be respectful and responsible to your place? And so one of the things I'm doing is trying to plant native plants and plants that support the native ecosystem in my yard and in my surroundings. I try and pick up trash whenever I found it. And I'm trying to build relationship with the place and thinking of the trees and the animals and the space, not as things or as nouns, but as people and as spirits that connect to me. And so that's my learning acknowledgement, and that's the work that I'm doing in reference to this. I wonder if you do have that knowledge, if you know which Indigenous territory you're on and you would like to share in the chat and just take a moment to acknowledge your place. I really, really appreciate that. I just want to share with you, for those of you who don't know, Dr. Gillian Judson, Assistant Professor in Faculty of Education, Simon Fraser University. She teaches within the Educational Leadership and Curriculum and Instruction programs at graduate and undergraduate. She's the mastermind behind all of this, and the resources that we've utilised to create this: a walking curriculum, evoking wonder and developing sense of place, engaging imagination in ecological education, practical strategies for teaching, and imagination and the engaged learner cognitive tools for the classroom. And then I'm going to hand over in just a moment to Tim. So Tim was born Maurice Cootley. He's a member of the Lower Nicola Indian Band that belongs to the Shwemiks, a branch of the Nakabamuks. You might have to help me with that. The Thompson Nation of the Interior Salish peoples of British Columbia. Tim grew up in Revelstoke, in Skihikan, where the ridgelines meet the water, or the Miskakas, the place of the chickadees, the Tanaha. And he grew up with the Enselsheen Sinaiax Lakes territory, where we are now. Tim is a hiking guide and continues to guide people through this place. Tim's got a master's in environmental education, a bachelor's in cultural anthropology, all centering on First Nations oral narrative and Indigenous knowledge. He's the owner and director of Zukmin Guiding, which, if you are ever in the Rockies or in BC and need some guiding, you should really look him up. He combines academic, Indigenous and guiding knowledge to share with people in Southern Alberta and BC. And so in order to pose a question and get us thinking, I'm going to pass it over to you, Tim. Thanks. Cook's Jam.
Thank you. Yeah, some of those words are a bit of a mouthful, yeah. So it's Inkanklutmik is the nation I'm from, which is in the Okanagan-Thompson, outside of Merritt. I presently reside way over here in Calgary, and I have worked in education in the past with both Edmonton Public as well as Calgary Public. So I enter into this more as an academic and as a guide presently. And really what I want to start off with is to pose a question to you all. And that is, think of a place that is significant to you. And it can be man-made, it can be natural, but take this opportunity and think about what that place actually means to you, and what is it about it that is significant. So I'll give you a minute or two to think about that. If you want, you can write it down. You can share it if you'd like. It's entirely up to you.
Share music for a minute to give people time.
Right. So we'll get you to sort of focus and come on back. Thank you for doing that. And I want to kind of lead off from there and now think of that place and think of how you renew it, and think about when the last time you were there and when the next time you are going. And these are important. And the reason is that it's all about visiting. Same as visiting a friend, as visiting a colleague. It's the same thing. You're renewing relations. Yeah. And we do this in physical place by movement, by actually walking it, by interacting with it, and sometimes even talking to it. Yeah. And well, this sounds somewhat a bit eccentric at times, and depending on where you are, you know, it can be a bit embarrassing. However, we all do this, whether we intend to or not, really. Yeah. Think about the place that you grew up, and what those significant places mean. Yeah. You have stories that are embedded there. You have things that have happened that were significant in your life. Maybe it was a birth of a family member, or your favorite dog, or meeting your now spouse, or a girlfriend or a boyfriend, or just having a lot of time spent in that area, right? We all do this. It is not, none of this has anything to do with culture. It has everything to do with the individual. However, culturally, we express it and renew it differently. Yeah. Indigenous people do this continuously. Yeah. Through daily, monthly, semi-annually, annually movement, whether it's fishing or hunting, whether it's going to visit family. Some of you may know about what's called the powwow trail. There's other kind of expressions to this, but the thing is that the way we connect to place is the foundation, and what I would argue, and others would argue, is the foundation of knowledge, of our knowledge, all of our knowledge, right? This is actually why we do a land acknowledgement. I'll get back to that in a bit later, but what you're doing is acknowledging that layer, the continuous accumulation of movement, of experience, of practice, of knowledge through that landscape. That's what you're acknowledging, right? You're not acknowledging people. You're acknowledging the land. And that's what's important. And well, we do this in terms of reconciliation. Reconciliation is nothing more, nothing less than a partnership. And it's your partnership with not the people, but the land. Yeah. And why is this important? It's important because the more connected you are, And the more significant the place, the more you're actually going to do something. Huh? In terms of saving it or protecting it or ensuring its safety and ensuring its longevity. So that is kind of what we're going to dive into today. So with that, I think I have a little bit more time, but I will send it over to Jade, and I think we have some breakout sessions. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think with the few minutes, if people, I mean, we have 85 people here. Thank you so much for joining us. We're so grateful for your time. And Tim, for your perspective about going to place, repeating it. I think one of the big things of the work I'm doing and the pedagogies that speak to me are going out frequently, going out often, going to the same place again and again. And this doesn't have to be some exotic place. It can just be, you know, your schoolyard, whatever that looks like, urban, rural, busy or not. And so that really speaks to me as an amazing sort of foundational piece for the work that you're going to do over the next few weeks and hopefully in your educational practice going forward. So here's what I'd love to do. If people are willing to share, and if you don't, you can just keep your mic off and your screen off or stay within the main room. I'm going to invite people into breakout groups of 4. And I'm just going to give you 1 minute each to say hello and share your place of significance. And what is it about that place that makes it significant for you? I'm going to try and be timely. I'm going to try and just give us a minute each so we can stay on track, because I know how beautiful it is when you get into that moment, but we want this to be a place of connection. We want this to be a network of people. And so we're going to kick that off. So what is your significant place and why is it significant to you? We have 82 people. Oh my gosh, I have to really go up. 21 breakout rooms. Here we go. You hit breakout. If you accidentally leave the meeting, which happens sometimes, just come back in. You'll go in the waiting room. We'll let you back in. Thank you so much.
So Jade, I think Tim has gone into a room, which is great.
Oh, lovely.
So 4 minutes and then.
Totally. I'm just typing in the broadcast.
Yep. Sounds good. I think it's good because we want these to be interactive sessions for the following 2 as well. So it's great.
Absolutely. If anyone here is having trouble connecting to a room, you feel free to unmute and let me know, or if not, you can just hang out here for a few minutes.
I'm sorry, I'm late. I couldn't find the link.
Oh, that's okay.
Amanda. It's all good. It's all good. Just
I'm going
maybe
to
just stay
send.
hang here.
I'm going to send you to a breakout group to
Okay.
Just share a significant place to you and why it's significant.
Okay.
Oh, assigned to room 1. See you there. A few minutes. Please, no apologies. We understand people are multitasking and doing whatever they need to do. Public library, quiet places. Oh, libraries, the best places on earth. Sanctuary. Thank you so much. If you want to write in the chat, you could private message it if you want to share in the chat where your significant place is. Mine is a beach in a little island off of Spain called Menorca, where I went with my grandparents on holiday with my mum, my dad, and my mum's parents every year when I was young, because our dentist friend had a place there and he'd give it to us for cheap. And we scattered my grandfather's ashes there, and he taught me how to look in rock pools and talk to the jellyfish so they didn't sting you. And so it's I just don't think they like the smell of him, because he used to work in an oil factory, and I always wondered whether his skin was slightly sort of offensive, because they would come for everyone else and they'd see him and they'd swarm away. It was quite funny. Okay, I'm just going to send, we just got 2 minutes left.
I'll be right back.
Of course. Hi, welcome. If you're just joining us, people are in breakout groups. They're going to be back in one moment. But if you have just joined us, we're just thinking about a place that's significant for us, and why it's significant, and just diving a little bit into that. Hey, 50 seconds left and everyone will be popping back in.
There's Tim. Welcome
Hi. Welcome
This
back.
must be why it's called Zoom, because you're in the middle of a sentence and suddenly
just-
you're no longer in that space. You've been zoomed into another space.
It's always me mid-sentence. Welcome back. If you're coming in, we'll just wait another 30 seconds or so as other people are finishing up their chats. Did everyone get a chance to share? Seeing some nods. That's great. Thank you so much. It's such a beautiful community of people. So pleased to see you all here. Oh, I love the reactions now on the new Zoom where they move so you can see people throwing their thumbs up. That's great. Thanks, everyone. Okay, people are coming back. I think that's everyone. Breakout rooms are closed. Thank you so much for sharing. And Tim, did you want to close with something before we pass on? Or are you just happy for people to have dove into that? You're muted there. Oh, still muted. Sorry.
Oh, Tim, you're muted. We need to hear you.
Oh,
Yay.
hey, there. Sorry.
It mutes everyone when you come back into the room.
Right. Yes. Yeah, real quick. I've shared this with other people, and I'm allowed to, I think, partly because I'm not a teacher. But well, I am. I'm a guide, and guides are teachers. We just do it informally. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I would argue that everybody's a teacher. You just have to look at it differently. But the point of all of this, and the important aspect of land-based learning and doing anything within place, is not to be a teacher, if that makes sense. Meaning that it's about you identifying with place, and then about how you transmit that information to other people. whether it's students or friends or others. So that's kind of my wrap up on this. Yeah, we can have questions later, but and you can call me out on that, I'm sure. But yeah, I think we'll move on to the next piece.
Thank you so much, Tim, and thanks everyone for sharing. And yes, I think rather than teacher, it's like educator. We're educators in every different aspect of our lives to somebody, and so I'm so grateful that you're here sharing with us, because your knowledge is invaluable. And I'm going to pass it over to Gillian, who's going to talk a little bit more specifically about the program and what's going on. Over to you.
I just got that really unnerving feeling because there's 80 people in the room and I've been so caught up in what Tim's saying that I forgot that I have to speak now. So thanks, Tim. Really helpful and a really beautiful way to start off today. Hello, everybody. I am just so excited that you've all joined today to be here as we describe this unearthing of the walking curriculum. I want to begin by introducing the teaching team, and they're all mostly here, I believe. If you could just unmute yourselves and say hello. These are the people whose videos you're going to get to see over the next 3 weeks. So I hope you're available to do this. Lindsay, could you say hi?
Hi, I'm Lindsay. I have a grade 2-3 class in Burnaby this year, and did my master's in imaginative ed, finishing in 2014.
Thanks, Lindsay. Jenna MacArthur, I know you're here.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you all virtually. I teach kindergarten in Surrey, and it's been 2 years since I graduated from my master's in imaginative ed, and I'm looking forward to continuing to learn and grow with everyone.
Thanks, Jenna. Kelsey Keller in the room.
Hello. Hi, everyone. This year I have a group of grade 4-5s, and I run a forest school program through public education. And I am also from Jenna's cohort from the imaginative ed master's cohort. And I'm currently plunking away at a PhD looking at some of these things as well. So I'm very excited.
It's a great word for a PhD, plunking. That's a good way to describe it. Megan, I see you smiling there. Megan Sandham.
Hi, my name is Megan Sandham. I'm a primary learning coordinator in Delta. And I just finished my master's in imaginative education last year with Laura, who you will meet.
Yes, Laura Farley, you're up next.
Hi, yeah, I teach kindergarten in Vancouver, and just finished a master's, and yeah, enjoying it.
Thank you, Laura. Now I know Andrea is here, but she's also got students in her room and may not be able to throw on her video. Are you able to do that right now, Andrea? No. Okay, hi, I'm going to pretend I'm Andrea. Hi, I'm Andrea, and I teach in Burnaby, and I've got great students, and I'm awesome because it's 4:30 and I'm still at school. Thank you, Andrea. Woo! You'll get to see the video of Andrea. It means so much to me, honestly, to have this teaching team here, because I know for you who are educators, you want to hear from educators, you want to hear from teachers that are doing this work and can answer your questions. I'm so grateful that we started out with this small group environment in breakouts, because the next 2 webinars really meant to build our community, really meant to have a space for you to come with your questions, and teaching team members will be here and we can share our ideas as we move forward. I want to give you a little bit of debrief on why we are not doing a 30-day walking curriculum challenge. Quick show of hands, whether physically or using the reactions, who has done a walking curriculum 30-day challenge in the past? So I see a few hands there. That's fantastic. Awesome. Thank you so much. So I've always loved those, but I've also wanted to go deeper. I want to go deeper into the principles that underlie a walking curriculum. And there's a few reasons for that, because as much as I love to walk, the walking curriculum is more than just getting out and getting our steps in, as anyone who's dug into it realizes. So I really wanted to use this spring, and with the support of Jade and the Outdoor Learning Store and Seabean and Tim coming in today, I really wanted to have a series where we could dig into that part of a walking curriculum that is so important, which is those cognitive tools. Now, there's a lot of research out there that says providing children with direct encounters with nature is super important for supporting pro-environmental behavior. So there, right out the bat, we know that it's great for kids to have connections to the natural world. But a subset of that research is saying that not all experiences are created equal. What's very, very important is that those are emotional experiences. And this is what those cognitive tools do in the walking curriculum. And so we don't want to ignore that. And what rather, we're going to use Teaching Imagination in Place, our Spring Tips series. Thank you, Lindsay Zabrowski, for thinking of that cute acronym, Spring Tips. Get it? I think it's funny. Anyone who's got a snowy environment is very happy to see the tips poking through, maybe. We want to have a 3-week guided learning experience where, and if you don't have time to do something one day, it doesn't matter. There's no, race to the finish. If anything, you do this at your own pace as you can do it. But what we want to provide you with is a little bit more of information on 6 different cognitive tools this series. So what you can expect is every day you'll get an email, and it'll provide information about a cognitive tool. For example, why rhythms and pattern is a good way to engage emotion outdoors. You'll have a video from one of our instructors who will describe how they use rhythms and patterns in outdoor learning. And then you'll have a new way of using a walk from the walking curriculum with a different cognitive tool attached to it, the rhythms and patterns. So it's more about digging in and using cognitive tools sort of intentionally for the first week and a half. I think it's 2 weeks of our series. And then we're getting super selfish, because week 2, I believe, or 3 is about you. It's about a self-study. We're going to offer and send out a prompt each day and encourage you to spend time outdoors and in the natural world, wherever it is you feel most comfortable, using those same cognitive tools to explore some questions about your beliefs and values and ideas. Because that's the other piece here. We might want our students to develop a sense of connection to the natural world, but what do we feel? What do we consider to be barriers? What are our opportunities? And so that is part of our series as well, an opportunity for self-study. Ultimately, what is the goal of imaginative ecological education, of which walking curriculum is an example? The overall goal is pretty radical. It's a sort of a different worldview than I certainly had growing up as a non-Indigenous Western person raised in a system where I was taught that kind of the natural world is separate from me. So how do we cultivate a sense of understanding and connection? And that is one of our main goals over the next program, for the course of the program. And so I hope that you don't find the daily emails overwhelming. As I said, there's no running behind. You can always pick up wherever you want to pick up. And because you signed up for the program, along with over 800 other educators, super excited, you can have access to all of these resources, even following this 3-week series. I think one of the other things I wanted to bring up is that it's really important that you're playful and exploratory for the next 3 weeks. There's no perfect. It's all about practice. And I would encourage you to take any questions or tensions or challenges or issues you have, hold on to them and bring them to the group, so that when we have our live webinars, we can talk about these ideas as well, and we can support each other in our learning about outdoor activities. I'm going to pause there briefly to see if there are any questions from anyone in the group about either the structure of the program as it's starting, or the intention of the program, anything at all.
Feel free to use your reactions button to put your hand up, or just unmute, or you can type something in the chat if you like. We are going to have a more formal Q&A anytime now as well.
Oh, I have a question. Jade and I worked really hard to take out all bad links and all glimpses and blips and blops, but we know there's going to be some in there. So if you do come across a link that doesn't go where it should, apologies in advance, but inevitably there's going to be something. So please let us know and we will correct that as quickly as possible. But hopefully there won't be much of that.
And then to try and make sure you don't rush ahead even, each of the links for the video on the resource page appear at midnight of the night before. So, but then they'll stay up there indefinitely. We're going to say a few months and then we'll put it down so that we can do something fun for you next year. But yeah, if you click on the link and it says link not found later on in the series, as your email comes in, that video will appear at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
makes sense.
So you have to keep, you won't get everything all at once. Oh, there's something in the chat there. There's a link below the intro video that shouldn't go to where it should. Where it does. We'll have to look at that too. The intro video is on the resource page, Amanda. Not sure what the page.
Maybe Sarah as well, you noticed. Maybe you can let us know which site it is.
Oh, I can answer that. Okay, so yes, if you could let us know where that link is, we can fix that, either Amanda or Sarah. Biljana, absolutely. You don't need to purchase anything to participate in this series. We provide enough information in your email. You'll be given a walking inquiry focus. For example, the line walk and an inquiry question, but then we'll give you a suggestion of how to engage rhythms and patterns or metaphor or the story form, different cognitive tools with that particular walk. And so you can just purely follow those examples. I also include the original walking theme and cognitive tool, though many of you will be familiar with those. This introduces a different cognitive tool because all along we've been saying you can create these walks after you've done most of the walks in the walking curriculum. Ideally, you're going to see all different things you can do. But what isn't clearly articulated in the walking curriculum are what these cognitive tools are and where they come from and how we can use them. So that's the intention of this 3-week event. And if you really want to learn more about the walking curriculum, you can also shoot me an email and I can send you far too many articles that you probably don't want to read if you're interested in that, and some videos and those kinds of things, for sure. I know somebody emailed me with a question earlier in the week, so I might as well ask another question. What if I can't keep up? Should I come to the live sessions? There's no keeping up because it's self-paced as well. You can follow your own pace. And yes, come to the live sessions, get to know other people that are interested in this work. Maybe there's a way to network to support each other in the long run. And thank you, Amanda, for sharing the link of the part that's gone a bit squirrely.
I'm on it.
Comments, questions, thoughts? Yay, okay, I'd love to talk more about this. Oh, I see my fellow teaching team members rolling their eyes. I could talk for 2 years about cognitive tools, can't I? Jillian, do you have your email? Yeah, I can give you my email. Here's my email if anyone has specific questions. This
Christiane, oh, sorry. Christiane asked, can I translate and share? Do you mean in French? En français? Ah oui.
Oui, oui. Tu peux.
Oui, c'est possible.
Traduire tous les mots. Si vous voulez. Oh, I'm so sorry, but I tried. Yes, absolutely. The walking curriculum has been translated into French, but we don't have a lot of resources. If that's not too much, absolutely. Maybe we could talk, Christiane, because I would love to have those self-study questions en français. So perhaps we could connect later. My email's in the chat if you wanted to talk another time.
Okay, thanks. Merci.
Thank you. So this notion of cognitive tools, well, if I had 5 minutes, I'll see if I can keep it to that. The walking curriculum is an example of an approach to teaching called imaginative ecological education. And that idea and the principles I'm about to describe came from my observation that there's a fair amount of emotional disaffection. A lot of students don't have an emotional connection to a natural place. They certainly didn't when I was teaching in the school I was at. And so I began a research project back in 2005, looking at how can we connect people emotionally to the natural world around them? How is it we can educate for ecological understanding? And in a sense of feeling connected to the natural world and then living in ways that support the flourishing of the natural world. And that research led me to believe there's 3 components to that. Feeling is a huge piece, and that's what we're digging into in this 3 weeks. Feeling is the emotional connection. Humans are never moved to action unless they are affected. And so what tools do we have that move us to action? Those tools are actually tools of imagination. We are imaginative beings, whether we're a day old or whether we're 85 years old. And yet in education, we don't always talk about or shape teaching experiences in ways that employ those tools of imagination, tools that when they're tied up with knowledge, they make us feel. And somebody has done an immense amount of work in that area. The late Kieran Egan has a whole theory of how do we teach human beings in a way that foregrounds their emotional and imaginative lives. And he describes a whole bunch of tools we have, tools because we speak languages. Doesn't matter what oral language you speak, there's tools that come along with oral language that help us emotionally connect with the world. And they're all tools of storytellers, rhythms, patterns, mysteries, metaphors. These are the tools we're going to dive into in this course. And our goal, I think, Jade, although we're both hoping this goes really well, is to run it again next year with a different set of tools. But we've chosen 6 to begin with this year. These tools, and there's links in today's email to describe where they come from, how they're developed. The great thing is your students have them because they speak languages, whether they're oral language users or written language users, or for teachers of older students, theoretical language. There's all kinds of tools that we use without really knowing them in our daily lives. For example, if you teach middle school, most middle schoolers are fascinated with extremes and limits and gross things. Believe it or not, that's a tool that helps us engage with the world. So how can we help our students see the gross and imaginative and bizarre things in the world around them? That's a tool that helps us think and learn. So the 6 that I believe we're going to be looking at in this program are rhythms and patterns, heroic qualities, the story form, metaphors, vivid mental images, and help me, Jade.
Dramatic oppositions and change of context.
Change of context and powerful oppositions. So for each day, when that shows up in your inbox, if it says today's the day we explore dramatic tensions, there'll be a link for you to say, what the heck is she talking about? And then there'll be an example and a little video. So there's no way we can thoroughly do this, but hopefully my hope is that you will be emotionally engaged and we can continue to develop and grow this, with our first iteration being starting today. So I hope that was a somewhat of an answer. I'm not sure who first asked the question. Oh, that was Allison. I hope that helps a little bit, Allison, just to put a little bit of context.
Amazing. Alison said, yes, thank you in the chat. Okay, so Sarah, I have a question for you, Gillian. Sarah, and then followed up by Lee, said they're taking this as an informal, like outdoor ed teacher or leader, and hoping that they can talk about how this could be used in both formal and informal approaches. They imagine there'll be heaps of overlap, but they want to see how both approaches are addressed. I run a lot of informal programming, a lot of recreational programs, a lot of sort of environmental ed things where you pop in. But I see, so Tim Patterson has his hand up, so I'm going to throw it over to you, sir.
Yeah. So as a guide and a person that takes people into the mountains, I do this and other guides do this every day. And guide knowledge and Indigenous knowledge and what you will understand as a Western knowledge. Knowledge is knowledge. It's how we layer it and how we express it. That's important. And as a guide, I have a little bit more leeway in terms of moving into emotions, but also letting people feel, and people are a little bit more comfortable, expressing their feelings in that kind of environment rather than a classroom. So as an outdoor ed teacher, it's something that comes rather organically, if you will, just by actually going outside. Yeah. So that's kind of my 2 cents. And in terms of the imaginative and the walking curriculum, how it relates and how it bumps up against Indigenous knowledge. Indigenous knowledge is the cumulative experience of a person. It's a daily dynamic practice. It's knowledge, whether it's Western academic or everyday kind of knowledge or practice. It's story, and I don't mean story in a traditional sense. I mean jokes, metaphors, anecdotes, personal stories. It comes down to how we communicate, and our stories are not something that when you say story, I always refer to it as narrative, because narrative is how we tell something, yeah? Rather than story. Story brings up too much of a connotation that doesn't necessarily make sense in the real world. And all of those are layered on land. And as we move through land, we can gain knowledge from that. But we also layer on our own knowledge, if you will, and our own experiences. So it's a dynamic practice. It's something that we give and we also take. Yeah. You're using lots of words here in terms of curriculum and pedagogy for educational purposes, but bring it back to every day and bring it back to you. It's not rocket science here. So
you got it. Thanks,
I
Tim.
wondered if I could share something. Tim and I and Jade had a meeting just in planning this, and something Tim said has really stuck with me, and something that Jenna Jasic said, who is an associate for the Indigenous understandings for the Outdoor Learning Store. She talked about land as teacher, but land as inspiration. And so this isn't just about going outside with your students, but we really want to add that layer of intentionality and really think about how we're emotionally connecting. And as Tim says, we are placemakers. It's in us as humans to emotionally connect with things around us, but we want to turn potentially thin places, which, as I understood it, Tim, are places where the layers of meaning haven't been developed as much, to thick places, perhaps through schooling and through participation and through walking and through intentionality. We can create thicker places with more meaning for our students and for ourselves.
Beautiful. Another thing that Jenna shared with me, and that I've talked to about various Indigenous mentors who are in the teaching space, is that in order to connect to Indigenous perspectives, there's a lot of things to do with ceremony, right? It's not about taking Indigenous ceremony and mimicking it or appropriating it. It's about creating your own ceremony. So in my recreational programs, these walks become, we do some, you know, something high energy to start with, or some sort of group game. And then we go on this walk together with this intentionality, with these key sort of posing points. And we use it as an opportunity to bond on our programming, to set our intention for the day or to connect into a theme. And then I always use it as well as part of like a gratitude or a reflection piece, which gives you something at the end of your day that they'll remember as the last thing, take back to parents or take back to family and say, hey, we did this and I learned this or I felt this. But these have worked for me as amazing, you know, transitional pieces, moving from place to place, having an intentional walk rather than just getting there. It's enabled me to take quiet moments, maybe get them in a sit spot, or if I'm starting to do nature journaling with my recreational groups, giving them something. If you've got them multiple days, say for a camp, a spring break or a summer camp, having them do a little nature journal each day that connects into some of these things, so that they've got something as well to show that they've achieved. Maybe there's some collected pieces in there, or maybe there's some art. But that for me is how I've utilized it in the last few years as well. Hey, does anyone else have any other questions? Because we're into the Q&A. We've got 8 minutes left. And look, we are going to respect everybody's time. We're going to be so grateful that you came, but let you go on the hour so that everyone can get back to babies and families and food and whatever you need to do. And biggest thing is, if you didn't get an email that was all green and brightly coloured today, please check your spam, because it is coming from like a mail service rather than my personal inbox, because there's 800 of you. So please check your spam. You can add it as a contact if you didn't get it. Again, if anything weird comes up or links don't work, my email's on there, outreach@outdoorlearningstore.com. Just ping me a message and I'll be as responsive as I can to fixing it.
I have a question.
Hi.
So I'm listening, I'm trying to understand, like, so when we talk about like connecting to the land, and I see this when I'm with the kids out there every day versus kids who are in a classroom, is there gonna be something like, I don't know, is there like some ideas as to how to do it more with school children who are not outside every day? Because probably like all of you notice that with the kids who are outside every day is already like a different experience. And then I feel like we as educators, like how we tend to the land as like humans, is that kind of what it means when we talk about the Native American community and including their ways?
I think it's about how you talk, and what you notice and what you ask the people around you, children, adults, whoever, to identify with, as you're moving through the landscape. It's about noticing subtleties. It's about noticing things that you don't often think about, smells, right? Or feel, texture. There is such a thing as texture of place, right? That's why certain communities are more significant than others, right? So it's about what you notice and what they notice, and then talking about it and then linking it to what you're doing as an educator. And that's what Indigenous knowledge is about. And it happens rather organically. And that's kind of the problem with all of this, is that it's not necessarily structured and we don't necessarily think about it. And so you have to put some intention to it.
Can you add on to that, Gillian? Pajana, are you saying that in your class, do you go outside every day? Because we're also trying to encourage that, right? Like maybe you, if it's not a part of your daily thing to start your day with a walk. One thing I've been working with teachers, because I'm not a full-time teacher. One of the things we do is say, why don't you meet your class outside at the end of recess, for example, and just take 5 extra minutes before you go back in. So we're not doing another transition. We're not taking up more time. That time would be spent, taking off boots or whatever anyway. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, so we are an outdoor program, so we do not have a building, and I work with preschoolers, but one of the things I noticed, like there were 3 turning 4, so they're really young, but now we're going over letters and they can sit down for an hour. They're that engaged. I couldn't do it every day. I think that'll be too much for them. But there are times so they can sit up to an hour as young as they are. And I can only imagine how much more beneficial it would be for children who go into a classroom to stay out longer. Yes.
Okay, so I won't repeat anything that's been said already, but from my own perspective, I've been interested in outdoor learning as a way to sort of address stereotypes that exist around outdoor learning being anti-intellectual or non-academic kind of work. So I am very concerned with how do we develop the activities we would typically associate with hard thinking, and do it in ways that connect to the curricula that we are required to teach. So this isn't off learning time, but rather how do we use inquiry and features of kids' imaginations to learn things about the world that then can support us and we can bring into our assessment practices and we can have them used to demonstrate their learning. So it's very much connected to curriculum. And Biljana, most of my thinking around this has been in the K-12 dimension, mostly K-9 probably, but cross-curricular ways, how do we teach the curriculum using tools of imagination to do so? And this is the part that might be tricky. I think moving forward in this program, we need to be comfortable with a little bit of ambiguity, because for some of you, it's the first time you've heard about maybe this theory called imaginative education. But maybe week by week, day by day, we can learn about what aspects are most interesting for all of us, and it can shape our next series. For example, the questions we've had today have been great, and this is the kind of questions I'm hoping we can address in our next webinar on a Monday. And after 4 days of having a cognitive tool, a tool of imagination and inspiration for a walk sent to you, you might have some experiences to share about what it was like doing it, and from all different contexts. For example, those of you who teach only outdoors, those of you who teach in a sort of a typical program. So I hope that's sort of pointed to some of what you were asking. Jade, we're at 4:59.
Beautiful. I'm going to just wrap up real quickly in that thank you for being here. And there was a couple of things that I forgot to mention. And one of these, Laurie reminded me, thank you. Firstly, we're wondering if you could document your walks, or before the next workshop, if you join us, or you can email me one. And obviously it doesn't have to have any children in it, but if you could take one photograph from doing part of the walking curriculum, if you could take one photograph outside. Yes, Gillian?
Laurie had the great question. Hi, Laurie. How do we, if we're documenting, if we happen to want to share those, what hashtag could we use so we can follow each other's ideas? I would always recommend hashtag walking curriculum and maybe hashtag spring tips would be a good way. I'm not sure if you're on Twitter.
I went
double thumbs up from Laurie. If you are there, share it like that. Spring tips 2023 sounds good.
Can we do that? Because I feel like spring tips might be out there already. So yeah, if you're on social media and you want to share, great. If not, if you could just bring with you one photograph, and what I'm actually hoping to do at the end of this is to create a giant collage of all of our experiences, layer them up, like Tim said, into these thick places of that resonance, that memory. This is emotional for me. This work has connected into my body and my mind and my soul as an adult, and we hope that self-study week will do that for you too. But just to close, somebody asked for an example of an intentional walk. One of the ones that's you're not going to get that's from the walking curriculum this is a corners walk. So if we're tying into curriculum, right, say you do live in an urban environment, you're inside the corners walk. How many different corners do you notice? Take note of where you find them. How are the corners different? What makes a corner a corner? Perfect in way to teaching angles, to teaching shape, to teaching space, estimating, understanding 3 dimensions over 2 dimensions. And then this connected into the cognitive tool of metaphor and humor. What does it mean to feel cornered or have your back in the corner? Imagine being cornered by a wild, ferocious animal. Thankfully, you speak that animal's language. What would you say to that animal to get out of this precarious situation you find yourself in? Alternative, you can create other imaginative and humanist scenarios between predator and prey. So then you're also tying into understanding environment and how animal relationships work and all of these different things. There's so many different ways. Then that social humanities of understanding our emotions and how we are feeling in space. So anyway, just a very quick one. Again, you don't have to have this. If you do want a book that's going to change your life, Gillian will blush. The walking curriculum is it.
I shared a few links. I shared the link to the walking curriculum on ImagineEd, because if you're not familiar with it, that's a great place to start. I shared another link to a bunch of sample walks and activities that people have been doing. And I shared a link to the bigger theory. The bigger theory is, how do we educate so we care enough about the planet to save it? And one of the principles we need is to feel. The other 2, we won't have time to get there. So there's my seed of curiosity. You'll have to come back to learn about the rest.
Oh, mic drop. Okay. Genuine love for each and every person that came here tonight after your busy day to share with us. Thank you for being part of this community. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Gillian, for your work, for your knowledge, for your sharing. I can say Kuchjam or Husukasukini. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to end it there. The recording will be online tomorrow if you want to dive back in. Any questions, ping me an email. You'll get it on your just hit reply to any of the emails you get from the Spring Ticks.
And I hope to see you all next week if you can, and we'll have some conversations in small groups and learn about your week.
Yay, bring pictures, bring party. Okay,
Thanks,
bye
everybody.
everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim.
Bye.
Appreciate it, Tim.
Thanks.